Anyway.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Issues of the day under T-Radar.
Yeah, T-Radar's with us, building a deck, I believe at the moment, in the clay of West Auckland. G'day there, T-Radar.
Well, yes, and the sort of stifling mugginess, the pre-cyclonic fug.
Yeah, I was thinking this morning how gentle and sauna-like this cyclone so far is.
Yes, well, because one of those sort of overcast days here with that gentle mist that just sort of hangs in the air that isn't really rain and isn't really mist, but just kind of sort of gives you a bit of a dampness, but at the same time you're also sort of perspiring.
What should we call it then? Is it wrist? Or is it mane?
Wrist or mane?
Well, you know, a mesh between mist and rain.
Oh, I see.
What is it?
Wrist, yes,
We'll
wrist.
call it wrist.
Yeah, a bit of wrist. I just call it a damp fugginess.
I like that, fuggy. It sounds good, yeah.
But it's kind of not really muggy and it's not really foggy, It's just this kind of, but I know it's probably wrong, but I do get a bit excited when they say a cyclone's going to come through.
Can't help it a little bit inside. I mean, there's the element of danger. There's also the excitement of looking out the window at this thing that's raging around. But there is the possibility of calamity.
I know. I've got things I think. I should probably go and put that corrugated iron somewhere so it doesn't sort of blow around the neighbourhood in the 120 km/h gusts. All those little safety precautions you've got to take. Have I got everything sort of strapped down? Do I have an awning up? Should I take it down?
Yeah.
My gazebo, which I don't currently have, but should I put a rope over it? It's the only real sort of time you get sort of hit up about it. And then, of course, you do, and then it doesn't appear, and you think, I won't worry about it next time. And then when the next one appears and it's 120 km/h winds and your corrugated iron is blowing down the roof, decapitating people's peach plants, you think,
the shame of it.
Far from ideal.
Yeah. But of course, nothing as bad as what they've been experiencing over the Tasman.
That is true. Look, the terrible floods, and you see the news of them getting rid of all that mud and silt and stuff, and I dug some post holes yesterday, and it was all this clay, and I was attempting to sort of get rid of the last of it off the concrete. Just filthy, tiresome business, and heavy. Once you add a bit of water to that terrible silt, it's quite draining.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, horrible. Made me sort of appreciate a little bit of their predicament.
Just in a wee little way.
Just in a tiny little, here's a little tiny sampler, a little taste.
Talking about predicaments and, mucky stuff, have you heard about this family in Karaka who a couple of years ago, back in, I think, 2007, experienced something coming from the sky, splattering the car and house, and then a couple of years later, the same thing happening, and they went and got it tested, and the ESR said it was human faeces. Falling
from the sky.
Now, the Civil Aviation Authority says, no, it's duck poo.
Yes, well, ducks can be, if you give ducks the wrong food, they can be pretty squirty, the old ducks, and if there's a group of them flying at altitude and they've all suddenly gone, oh, God, we don't feel good, unjettison. Yes, but, I suppose, you got to think, where does human poo come from if it falls from the sky?
Well, from the aeroplane.
Yeah, but planes don't have just a hole.
No, but
they have collection tanks.
They do expel. You've heard about the falling ice from aeroplanes, haven't you?
Yes, but I assumed it was a bit of an urban myth.
It's for real, man.
Well, what do they have to jettison that for? I know they spill their fuel tanks so they need to make an emergency landing, but to jettison the waste tanks as well.
Maybe it's a dirty airline secret.
Maybe it is. Out over the Pacific, let it go. One flush to get it into the tanks, two flush to release it from the bottom of the plane.
Okay, if you're at high altitude and you are over the Tasman Sea, Pacific, or whatever, there is potential for that stuff to be carried not straight down, but along and then down,
right,
in some kind of jet stream.
Oh, well, that would be horrible. Can you imagine that? And then it just gently lands upon the green and tranquil fields of Karaka.
Which is not the horse breeding capital, but certainly right up there. I think. What is Karaka famous for? Is it the trots?
Well, it's famous for one stage for Eric Watson having an overpriced house there before he decided that discretion was the better part of valour and abandoned the country to go overseas and spend his wealth there.
You missed my joke.
He wouldn't be mocked relentlessly for his fleecing of those who invested in his finance company.
What's that backing up there? Is that your concrete?
That's my mate turning up with his little truck.
Oh, good on him.
It's the kind of day that we're having there. Little truck turns up. We've got a bit of got to put some posts in, go and pick up some more timber. It's all going on.
That's all far more important than poo flying through the air, isn't it?
Well,
really?
Certainly, it's one of those things. But, Yeah, it's a terrible story of the week, though, thinking about people doing things they shouldn't do. Someone went to the Agrodome. Have you been there in Rotorua?
Yes, I have, actually.
They slaughtered the two tame deer.
What?
They slaughtered with a machete. Killed them.
The deer?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I don't know why. I'll put the kettle on. I don't know. They left the head sitting on a stump and they took all of the meat. So clearly someone went, look, let's not bother going hunting. There's a couple of deer we can walk up to and we can chop their heads off with a machete.
Oh, no. Then those deer, they would have been domestic type deer.
Yeah, well, they were just sort of friendly.
Yeah.
All friendly, lovely friendly deer sitting there in the park. Just, what kind of person does that sort of
It's
thing?
like slaughtering Bambi or something.
It is, and all those tourists that come through there every year and pat those deer and have a little bit of a, scratch their heads. Terrible. What's the country coming to?
If they get caught, will they get some kind of fine?
Oh, I'm sure they'll probably get a small fine for stealing, I guess, an animal. It's not really rustling, it's more sort of backyard butchery. So if anyone out there in the Rotorua or greater sort of Bay of Plenty area has offered any cheap venison in the next little while, just have a little think about where it may have come from.
The problem is, though, that if you do catch these people and you do find them, they may not pay.
They may not pay, and then, of course, the thing these days, they're saying, well, we'll send them to jail, thus further reducing their ability to pay, because particularly, I guess, people on a lower income, they need to work fairly hard to pay their fines. Budgets are tight these days, and the decision is that, if they can't pay their fines, we'll send them to jail. A little bit like, I suppose, the sort of the re-emergement, the return of the debtors' prison, like they had in Dickens. If you don't pay your bills, you go to prison. I think they've got that in Kuwait as well. No, not Kuwait. What's the place? Not Abu Dhabi. What's that other place over there where people went to? Dubai.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Dubai. If you don't pay your bills, you go to jail. And so at the airport there at the moment, there's all these abandoned high-end cars. Ferraris, Porsches, Mercedes. People essentially just drive to the airport, park the car up, get on the plane and leave.
And get out, yeah.
So no,
Can't blame them.
It's a bit of a terrible predicament. I mean, there are people out there who just rack up fine after fine, and in that case you kind of think, well, you're not really making an effort. But there are other people, I imagine, under some kind of great deal of hardship who, fines are fairly large. But then I suppose there are other people who go, well, if you can't pay the fine, you shouldn't do the crime.
This is true.
But,
this is true.
It's often, yeah.
T-Radar, before you go, I did promise we were going to talk about this. Two stories on the front of the Herald Online yesterday. I assume it was in the print edition as well, but I don't read that. About that it could be kind of linked to the dairy industry. First of all, an Otago study that said that kids who were given free milk back in the 1950s, there's all those classic photos of the kids drinking the milk, the warm milk that had been out in the sunshine all day. They have less incident rates of colon cancer than some kind of test group that weren't given milk. And then there was also a breastfeeding study in the UK that said exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, no good for the child. You might want to stick them on some kind of formula. Now, that was interesting. Those two stories right next to each other on the front of the Herald. Any conspiracy person would have thought that that was paid for by the dairy industry. But today, the study in the UK has they've come out and said that those researchers have been linked to the baby food industry.
God,
I would like a little bit more research done on this Otago research paper that said that you drink milk and you get less colon cancer.
Look, I think, if anything, this proves that studies merely serve to confuse the mind. I think, there's been a study out that showed that studies should just generally be ignored by most people because they are confusing. And you've got to wonder, if it did show a drop in colon cancer, was the test group of a comparable sort of generation, if you know what I mean? Or was it the fact that at that period in time that what they had in other parts of their diet were good? But the terrible thing about that, you see America, schools there and they have milk on the school lunch menu, and you think, oh, well, that's healthy. But no, they don't actually drink plain milk. They drink all the flavoured stuff, full of sugar, chocolate milk, banana milk, and it's actually worse for you. There's so much more sugar in it than there is in a Coke.
That's right. So I would like to know from this research study, did they have? They might not have had colon cancer, but did they have a range of other health issues?
Some sort of lactose issues. Yes, no, I'm not entirely sure. Well, I gave up looking at studies once when I saw one that said you shouldn't eat chicken skin. And then there was a study the next day that said that people who ate chicken skin had a reduced risk of getting bladder cancer. So I went, oh, well, at this point, I'm giving up on studies.
Yeah. Fair enough. Oh, back to building the deck.
Next week, unless we're caught up in some kind of a cyclonic deluge and a piece of my corrugated iron lops off my head or arm.
All right, let's have a debrief then. See you, T-Radar. See ya.